Hello, this is my fifth check-in for my video game development class, and I kind of started in the middle of things because I have a lot of the coding stuff to go over, and going back and forth within the game is just not that fun. So what I cut out was I just started at the bottom. I picked up my key and my screwdriver, and I climbed up to the second out of the fourth floor of my tower. And we can see here, I have the correct fuse in my hand. So I'll just go put this one in. But you can see everything. Let me show this. Alright, so here is my fuse port. This acts as the puzzle for my game. So I have two of them. I have another one located at the back, which I'll show right here. Okay, so basically, you just need three fuses that you'll find down there, which I'll show. And once all of those, um, well, I'll just show you obviously. But once I plug this fuse in, boom, it'll say correct. And then it'll give me another one. So A9H1. I'll have to go find that. Come on. There we go. A9. But pretty much, this is the whole gameplay loop. Player will come down and they'll use the inspect system in order to find the correct fuse. And each of them are assigned a random signature, as I would call it, which you see there. It's obviously all random, so it's a little bit of a pain. And there's 9 fuses in there and 9 fuses in here. At first, each box was supposed to be its own like each port box, I call them, each port would have its own box, fuse box, but obviously since I added two of them, that kind of just changed things. Because originally I was going to have another puzzle, but due to time, I just decided to copy and paste this one that I already had. So, oh, and if I put a random fuse in here, it would show incorrect, and it would go for a little, like 2 seconds, and then the original code would flash on screen. So once I do this, it should say correct, and then boom, it hides the red. It's funny enough, I just layered a red and green mesh on top of each other. Just I thought it'd be cool to show some indicator that it was done. But obviously, I could do the same for here. And once those are both done, I was gonna have like some sort of sound or the player talking, saying that, oh man, the tower's done. And then the player would come up here, he'd press a button, and then boom, the ending of the game would occur. So that's all for that. Um, Now to get into the actual coding. So it's kind of a lot. So starting from main, these three are new. No, not this one. This randomizes. It's basically just randomizing all of my generation that I'm going to show in the next script. This await get tree. This makes sure that all of these, because these three are really critical to the game, and if even one of them doesn't process, then it breaks the entire game. That's what happened before. I didn't have this, and this collect signatures would call before this was done. And that just led to none of the fuses having any signatures, I call them. So, going to the next one, this is an auto load script called Puzzle Maker, which has all my generation and assigning stuff, which is really helpful because I think that was one issue that I was having back in video game one, where having every like making variables global so other scenes could recognize them and all that. That was such a pain. But having it in here is just really easy, which is nice. So obviously we have the total or the signatures that are currently in play that get generated here. That get here. So it's just a random letter, number code. And then I have this generate uniques that also gets called just in case, because I don't want any duplicates. So if it sees a duplicate within the already established signatures, then it would just roll this and it would take out the duplicate and give it another one, basically. This collect signatures function just takes all the signatures that are in play and stores it in this variable. And this assign ports um, takes all of the signatures, shuffles them, and then assigns a randomly picked one to each of the ports here. So obviously there's three, so it would take three signatures and assign it to each one of them. I have two of them. They're all pretty much the same. I guess here's this one. Here's the fuse box. I already showed all this last time. And then I had to create a fake fuse that has no collision box. And here's the real fuse. They both have the script, but this fake fuse, I'll show, is it right? I'm jumping the gun a little bit. This assign fuses, obviously it just assigns the signatures to the fuse. And this finally, this increment count is every time you complete a puzzle, it will add +1 to this. And basically the button that ends the game is going to be locked behind this variable. And this completed puzzle count needs to match this variable in order for the button to be pressable. So yeah, here's my script for fuses. Obviously, they're the same thing. Um, Tag.text, it just displays the signature to this little text thingy. Nothing too much. I layered a bunch of these timeouts just so that nothing could, no soft locking of any sorts. I don't know how it would react on like a slower device. So like, if like obviously this isn't for mobile, but if someone was doing this on a laptop and their specs weren't that good, the load times could cause an issue. I don't know if it would affect my game, but obviously since it's on my peripherals, then I don't really have to worry about it. But let's skip ahead. Here is my fuse ports. Yep, not really much. I said the thing about red, and I go down here. Here's the start round, and it checks every time to see if the remaining signatures that need to be, I guess, inserted into it, and if it reaches 0, then the game will or the text on the display screen will say completed, and it will do my increment count, and it will also hide my red mesh, my red mesh, so that the green one can pop up. Like I said earlier, these check every time a fuse is inserted into a port, and if it's correct, it'll obviously increment it, and it'll wait again before calling the start round just to check. But if it doesn't do this, oh no, sorry, I was misreading that. But yeah, these are pretty much just how they would work um, if it was a yes or no. Here is my fuse slot. So once the game starts, it will spawn in a fuse at each marker 3D, which if I go to my fuse ports and hide this flap, you can see, here's my little node 3D. All of these are fuse slots, and a fuse will be spawned in on here with their accompanied signature, obviously. So these functions kind of tie in with player. So in here, I didn't really do anything new up here. Maybe I did. It was kind of all over the place, honestly. But I know for sure this was a big problem. So originally, I didn't have this if else, and I just had a pure inspect item duplicate it. But this caused a very big error where every time the fuse would spawn in originally, um, it would spawn in as normal with its signature. Yes, that was fine. But when I picked it up, it would duplicate that object and it would delete the original object. So basically, I was creating a new instance of it. Therefore, it wouldn't have a signature since that only runs upon game starting. So it just completely broke my game, and every time I would put a fuse down, it wouldn't have a signature tied to it. It would literally just be the fuse without a signature. So I had to find a way to circumvent that, and that is where I came up with making a fake fuse. So every time I inspect it, it would just generate this my visual aspect of it, and it would also assign the the original item's signature to this fake fuse, so that let me go into the main. Yeah. I have to go all the way up. Um, Honestly, you get the idea. But if I just picked up the original fuse, they would both have the same signature. Is basically what that is. And then nothing new here. And then stop inspect. This just to make sure. Yes, if it's a key instead, then it enables my key variable so I can open the door. And this one, if inspect source, yada yada yada, goes back into this fuse slot where it makes sure that it is a fuse that I'm picking up. And also, whenever I have a fuse in the player's hands and I try to interact with another fuse, it would return null, so that or it would do the return, so that obviously I can't pick up two fuses at once. That goes for trying to place another fuse inside of a port with a fuse in it. And that is pretty much it. I already said about all this stuff. Player. Oh, well, this was kind of in the last video. I may have glossed over it, but this is just either enabling collision or disabling collision. And I mainly needed it because my newspaper is an item that you can't pick up. So if I pick it up, it'll. I gotta show you here. Yeah, if I pick up the newspaper, it'll just place it back down. It won't disappear like the screwdriver and the key do. So you can just pick this up an infinite amount of times. And then I think I have an equip. Yeah, here's this equip and dequip. So equip fuse is basically whenever I'm in the inspect menu and I click E or the interact button again, it would call this function and it would place the fake fuse in my character's arm, which is where's my player? I had to make a new variable inside the camera called equipped, which this is basically where the fuse will go. And then deequipped obviously just deletes the object that's in equipped. So that is pretty much all I have for today. The next video should be something about audio and actually having snow on a snowy map, which would be nice. But other than that, thank you for watching.